Welcome to the Real Estate and Small Business for Management Consultant Show. Whether you hold a corporate 9-to-5 or have determined that you want to explore the small business realm, this show is for you. Christian Carrillo talks to entrepreneurs and experts in the real estate and small business realms to discover what they do, why they do it, and how they do it to help show you the art of the possible. And now your host, Christian Carrillo.
Welcome back to the Real Estate and Small Business Show. I am your host, Christian Carrillo. I am excited for today's episodes, my friend. It's a long time in the making. Our guest is Corey Daharsh. Thanks for hopping on the show, Corey. We're so excited to have you.
Hey, Christian. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, and I hope to bring some valuable information today.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. So since 2016, Corey has impacted hundreds of clients by providing diligent and thorough assistance with investment transactions ranging from small, hard money lending to multi-million-dollar real estate syndications. Corey, you know we love our syndications on the show. After moving to Western North Carolina in 2020 and transitioning roles to join Advanta IRA's business development team, he's been able to leverage everything learned from personal experiences, networking, and continuing education to help investors and capital raisers confidently tap into using self-directed IRAs, 401ks, HSAs, and ESA accounts to diversify their portfolios and increase their passive income growth. Again, Corey, welcome to the show. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Why don't you get us started with a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thanks, Christian. So I have always had a personal passion for finance and financial literacy. I was taking accounting courses as a specialization in high school. I went to college for accounting and business management. I worked in college as a bank teller for a while, and after college, worked in a small tech startup, little entrepreneurship for a few years. But as that wasn't really panning out for me, I jumped back into the finance world. I found this job with Advanta IRA, which I thought was unique. I was able to kind of work in the finance world without having to go get my Series 6 and my actual financial advisory certifications. And what we do is we help investors kind of be their own financial advisor or choose their own path in their investment. So I really spent about 5 years as a client account manager processing day-to-day transactions. So I get a call from one of my clients. At the time, for about 5 years, I had about 1,000 clients assigned to me, and I take their incoming calls. It might be John Doe saying, I want to buy 123 Main Street. It might be Jill Doe saying, hey, I want to loan my friend this money, or hey, I want to be a limited partner on a syndication. And I'd help work out the details, help them get that transaction executed and funded as smooth and simply as possible. So I have a wide range of different types of transactions I've seen, different problems I've helped solve from a strategic standpoint. And all through that, the continuing education referenced earlier, I've got a special specification known as a CISP, or a Certified IRA Service Professional. And what that really means, and a lot of our staff have that, it means that we're experts in what the IRS will or will not allow within a retirement account. So I've held that designation since 2018. And again, I moved up to Western North Carolina in 2020 and switched to this business development role where I do a lot of networking, education. We put out our own webinars, and we have a podcast as well. So I've really been able to pivot, and at my age of 30, I'll be 31 next week, I'm able to really feel intrinsically motivated to pass along education and information to people that may be older than me, maybe my age, may just be at any point in life that they could really benefit from learning that something like this exists. Even if it doesn't help you tomorrow, the fact that you know it exists, which you probably previously didn't, is something that you could walk away with after hearing from someone like myself, just with that in your back pocket of hey, there's another tool I can use to put my money to work and maybe get off of the tumultuous stock market and have a little bit more control and a little bit more passion for what I'm investing into on a day-to-day basis.
No, that's excellent, Corey. Thank you so much. And I know you and I talked a little bit about this at the beginning of the show, but when it comes to thinking about retirement, individuals, especially individuals that work for corporate companies in the corporate space, we're taught to contribute to your 401k. right? And we take this as the holy grail, this investment vehicle that will help us throughout the years that we can contribute to and that will be there once we're ready to retire. But we don't really hear about things that Advanta IRA offers, right? We don't hear about self-directed IRAs. So if you don't mind, could you tell us a little bit more about Advanta and then what you all actually offer?
Sure. So Advanta is a self-directed administrator. We've been around about 20 years in this space. We've got about 8,000 active clients, and in Q1 of this year, we crossed the threshold of 2 billion in assets under management. So what we do for our clients is, again, we're experts in what the IRS will or will not allow. And we help clients make alternative investments. Basically, the only thing you cannot hold in an IRA account is a life insurance policy or something with a subjective value that the IRS would deem subjective, like antiques, fine wine, something that, you know, the man next door might not say it's as valuable as you might think it is because you're a specific collector or have a specific interest. So if it's not of those very limited categories, you can hold it in your retirement account. A lot of people just don't know that. Specifically, only about 4% of retirement accounts in the US are self-directed. And to put that into perspective, I pulled a study about 2 weeks ago, and at the beginning of this year, there was $37 trillion in the US-based retirement market. So out of $37 trillion in IRAs, 401ks, health savings, and education savings accounts, only about 4% of those are people taking advantage of self-direction. And again, we're experts in what you can and cannot do. So we strategize, we help clients if they need assistance in kind of putting their thoughts together and putting their ambitions together. We do a lot of educational content like you're doing here so that we can help. Although we don't provide tax, legal, or financial advice, we do have attorneys and CPAs that we would refer to our clients that have worked with us for a number of years, or even maybe active clients of ours. So they've got an innate knowledge and understanding of self-direction themselves as well.
Wow, that's powerful, Corey. Thank you for that. And you hit a stat there that I kind of want to touch on once more, right? 4% of retirement accounts are self-directed. Is that in the United States?
Yeah, that would be a US-based statistic. So I'm speaking about US IRAs, whether it's a traditional or a Roth, as well as those 401ks and any other employer plan like pensions and things like that that kind of can roll into an IRA or a 401k if you're retiring and leaving an employer, and then also those health savings and education savings accounts you could set up for either your own, your family's health needs, or your children's future college funds and educational expenses.
That's excellent, Corey. Thank you. And, you know, when I think about 401ks, they're pretty limited in the type of vehicles or investments that we can make, right? Stocks, bonds, mutual funds. Why is that number so low? Why aren't individuals self-directing more? They could invest in real estate, crypto, and so on and so forth. Why is that number so low?
Well, typically people find their current custodian as one of those larger wirehouse companies that only allow you to invest into the products that they vetted out or the market that they're actively, you know, attacking, if you will. You can, if you're a self-employed or small business owner, have a solo 401k and self-direct in that capacity. I mean, we offer a solo 401k pretty much for any husband, wife, or sole entrepreneur that doesn't have any W-2 wage earners. There are larger custodians that do offer a larger 401k plan where you can offer it to your employees in self-direct. But really the root answer to your question is that most people are either starting or already with one of those larger custodians that they may call a product a self-direct product, but that's really just them saying, okay, we have these 20 mutual funds and hedge funds that we think are comfortable and safe, and you can choose from all of those, and that's what we call a self-directed product. A truly self-directed account is where a custodian like Advanta says, invest in exactly what you want to. We'll make sure that it's within IRS compliance and kind of help you and court you in that fashion. But aside from that, the money is yours. Invest it how you want to and how you think you're going to benefit and profit from that money for your retirement earnings in the future.
Awesome. No, that's amazing. And you sort of hit on this a little bit earlier, Corey, but what can I invest in with a self-directed IRA for our listeners to understand that?
Pretty much anything. I mean, We see probably a little over half of our clients are real estate investors. So just let's look at the asset classes for real estate investors. You can own a single family home or a multifamily unit for rental income, for short-term rental or long-term. You can do a fix and flip through your retirement account, as long as you're not doing sweat equity. If you're outsourcing that, kind of serving as a general contractor, that's kind of the rule and regulation around that. But you can fix and flip properties. You can invest as a limited partner into syndications, which, is a great strategy. It's mailbox money. You're putting your money up as long as you've done the due diligence on the syndication, you've read through that PPM and the subscription paperwork. It's you put out your money on basically a syndication deal, and you start earning money back, not immediately in some cases, but in a fashion that you should be comfortable with going into that deal. You should know what the payout returns are, and if you need that money accessible sooner than that transaction lines up, then maybe find a different syndication for you. Raw land is something people invest into and either hold that for future development. Maybe they're someone that wants to joint venture and they buy the land and their joint venture partner develops it, and then they split the sale proceeds on the back end. And then like timber and other things are investment pieces in the real estate class that a lot of people jump into. So really anything real estate, again, is a great asset class, and about half of our clients, if not more, really more than half of our clients do invest into. But aside from that, you can do hard money lending, so where you actually issue a loan out of your retirement account, you set the loan terms. You can either have that as an unsecured loan or a secured loan where you're actually getting a position on a recorded deed or a recorded mortgage. So if the borrower defaults, you can claim something in return. And then there's other very unique asset classes. We've done a webinar recently. We do it every 6-8 months or so on the most unique investments we've ever seen. I mean, I've seen clients invest into alpacas, thoroughbred horses, travel tractors like semi trucks for traveling across the country, transporting goods and services. Really just, it's like I said, as long as it's not a life insurance policy or a hard to value collectible, you can hold it. So if you've got some sort of expertise or knowledge that not a lot of people have, and you know how to make money with that expertise, it's likely that you can do that with your tax sheltered retirement account.
That's incredible, Corey. Thank you for that. And if we're to keep this at a high level, what happens with taxes once I make these investments? How does that work?
Yeah, so the taxes are either deferred if you're making the investment in a traditional style account, or completely null and void if you're making the money or making the investment with a Roth account, meaning you've already paid taxes on the money you have in that Roth account. So it's null and void. If you buy a piece of property in a Roth IRA and you flip it and you make $60,000 profit, just for a simple number. The retirement account in itself is what's known as a disregarded entity for tax purposes. So there's no capital gains tax to be paid. The only taxes that could be applicable, and this is only in the traditional sense, would be earned income when you make the distribution out of that account later on in life. But if it's a Roth account and you've already paid taxes on that money, then there is no earned income tax to be paid. There's still stipulations on when you should be taking that money out. That's part of strategizing with your account manager with Advanta and with your CPA as to when you physically are planning to tap into this money. Like with a traditional account, it's 59.5. Otherwise, you're paying early withdrawal penalties. With a Roth account, it's a little bit different based on how long you've had a Roth open and a few other factors. But yeah, it's really a really great tax sheltering product, whether you are in a point that you can make your money Roth money, or you're just doing traditional investments and knowing that you will pay taxes on what you take out later on in life, but at least you're not taking that hit right now. And again, making investments with a disregarded entity for tax purposes shelters you from the capital gains tax. There's other certain taxes that may apply in very unique investment scenarios, but that's kind of a different topic for a different conversation.
Yeah, and I think hearing you talk through that, it's very clear there are various regulations, laws, intricacies to having a self-directed account, right? So this sort of brings me to my next question. What do you think is most important to look for in a self-directed IRA administrator?
Yeah, that is a great question. I mean, there are companies that we compete with and that are across the country that offer very similar services. I've been doing this for about 6 years now. I started in 2016. So I've seen some of the reasons that clients switch over to us. I've seen some of the different, I guess, problems that people have had and the positives that they found in Advanta. And just as a general sense, what I think a few of the key points are is good customer service. So knowing that when you reach out to your custodian, you're going to speak with either the same person or someone that's familiar with your account and knows who you are so that they can help you better. And then also the actual knowledge base of the employee base there. So like I said, with the certified IRA service professional designation, a lot of my staff and my colleagues are all pretty much experts in what the IRS will or will not allow. And then the educational component, if you're looking at a company and they're either charging you for the education they provide as opposed to offering it for free just to help anyone that could benefit from it, I think that's a key point. You don't really want to have to pay additional when you're already going and paying someone for a service that you find valuable. So I think those are a few of the key points. And then also just that you're comfortable in what you want to do and that they're helping you accomplish that, not kind of pointing you in another direction. I mean, in self-direction, the custodian shouldn't be pointing you in any direction. That's self-direction. You're the self, you should be making the directives. So those are some things I think that someone should look for. Also the cost, obviously, look for someone that's not charging you an arm and a leg to take advantage of self-direction. There's, a pretty wide range and scale of what these custodians charge for these types of services.
No, it's excellent, Corey. Thank you for that. And what is the timeline or turnaround for an investor to get set up and fund an investment transaction?
Yeah, that's a great question too, because a lot of times we have clients they'll hear about a syndication and they've got a deadline. We're looking at the 25th right now of July. So someone might come to our services and say, hey, I want to get in as a limited partner using my retirement money, but the deal closes on the 29th. The end of July is the last day I can get my money into this deal. And honestly, that's a 4-day lead time. That's not going to work for funding the investment, but it would work for getting the account open and also executing the investment paperwork. And kind of the scope of that is that when anyone opens a new self-directed account or any retirement account for that matter, the IRS has a 7-day right of rescission period where no custodian should be funding any investments with that retirement account until that 7 days has cleared, just in case the account holder changes their mind on a strategy or an investment. Once you actually make an investment, it kind of ties up the money. It might go up or down in value. So the IRS has that 7-day right of rescission period. So we couldn't even fund the account if we wanted to within the 7 days, or fund the transaction rather. The account, yes, surely. Then the second aspect to that is above and beyond the 7-day rescission period is getting the money from wherever it's coming from. If you're doing a custodian to custodian transfer, which is done for like account. So I have a traditional IRA here at this custodian. I want to move it to a self-direct account. Typically, we've got a great relationship with a lot of the back offices for large custodians. We typically see those funds come in within 3 to 5 days or so, 3 to 5 business days, that is, not calendar days, where we'll submit the request. They'll get it into processing and return it to us. That's a standard of operation. It definitely can be longer, it can be shorter, depending on who that custodian is. And if the client has liquidated positions or they're still on the market, some custodians take a day or two to liquidate your position. So on an average threshold, I see most clients account opened, funded from their previous fund source, and then ready to invest within about 10 to 14 calendar days. The other process for moving money is a rollover. So that's if you're left your employer or you have funds in a different type of account than you want to open in a self-direct context, you would have to actually initiate a distribution and have that distribution rolled into the self-direct plan. Most cases, a distribution has to be done with a check being mailed either directly to the new custodian or to that client directly. So there's, a deposit hold on a check that may be in context of that type of movement of money. So again, 10 to 14 days is pretty comfortable in a conservative estimate. We've seen clients open and funded their investment on that 7th day. We've seen some clients, because their money takes a little bit longer to roll in, closer to, 2 weeks or even a little bit longer. But one thing we do is our accounting back office is great, and our team works to follow up with those custodians. We'll reach out, we'll say, hey, we sent this over on this day. What's the current processing time, or what's the current status? And if there's any kind of hoops to jump through there, we'll reach out and coordinate with the client. So if they've got a pending investment, we can make sure they're on the forefront of what's going on with their money being moved, and they can, maybe light a fire if they need to by reaching back out to that previous custodian.
No, that's excellent, Corey. Thank you. And incredibly helpful, and definitely good for our listeners to know there. How do these vehicles differ from an investor, say, using savings to place an investment?
I think the biggest point, as we referenced earlier, is the tax shelter is probably the biggest thing. People are using money in a self-directed account and either deferring the taxes on it till later or having no taxes at all. Whereas if you're doing that with your savings, you're taking away from what your cushion is if you have a medical emergency, a family emergency, anything that you would otherwise need to tap into that money for. Because if you invest that savings as a limited partner and then something comes up and you need to draw from it, it's going to be a very big hassle, or maybe not even be possible for you to get access to those funds again. Whereas your retirement money, your options are to leave it on a tumultuous market, and at this current point right now, probably at a deficit of where that money was a few months back, or have it into a self-direct plan where it could still be at a deficit depending on the operators, but at least you're the one doing that due diligence, and you're not leaving it up to someone that's probably also charging you an advisory fee for what they're putting your money into that potentially could be at a loss. So it's just a way to have a little bit more control, to be using the money that you already have set aside for future, life, retirement later on when you would draw on that, no matter what age you are. We're both younger, so we know ideally, and knock on wood, we're not going to be tapping into our retirement accounts for 30, 40 years and letting that money grow. So that same $6,000 new money contribution I put into my IRA each year, if I know I don't want to touch it for 40 years, why not put it into a limited partnership or something that's a little bit of a longer hold, but has a little bit more security, ideally in the return on investment that I'm making now.
No, that's excellent, Corey. Thank you for that. And it's really been a pleasure getting to know more about you and having you explain to our listeners the art of the possible when it comes to retirement accounts, right? And I think, we're not really taught this kind of stuff in school, and it's a subset of the population that is taking advantage of things such as self-directed IRAs. So I think it's very important for folks to really understand what is out there and what can be done, because at the end of the day, I think it's one of those vehicles, one of those opportunities that can really help compound and grow wealth. Are you ready for a quick response round, Corey?
Well, I just want to tap onto one thing based on that feedback you just said. The art of what's possible. For me personally, and I brought this up at the top, I had a lot of interest personally in finance and financial literacy since a pretty young age, respectively speaking. I came from a position where my parents didn't go to college, and I didn't have financial literacy kind of bred into who I was and where I was. So I sought it out very young and very adamantly. And that's why I feel such a passion to pass that along at this point, and to do what I can to expand that knowledge and help anyone learn that can learn of these things. In school, I was specifically taking accounting classes, but it was, in a high school level, learning how to write checks, learning how to do basic things, not learning how to save for retirement or set money aside or be smart with your money. And that's really something that, at this point, if I didn't learn that, I'd be in a much less advantageous position for myself or my family. I've got a young son that I'd like to have set up much better than I was set up when I was at his point in coming up. So it's just, the knowledge is all encompassing and very helpful for anyone that is looking to move on to the next phase of life or just prepare themselves for that next phase of life. Let's go with that quick rounds.
I love that. And before we dive into the quick round, I think that's so important. I'm happy you shared that, right? Because financial literacy in our country, it's not necessarily taught, right? It has, you as an individual, you have to go out and learn it, or you have to find individuals that are in a place where you want to be in certain years. and potentially learn from them, have them mentor you, or find individuals such as yourself, right, that are proficient in the space and that can help guide us from point A to point B. So again, thank you for sharing that. And let's absolutely dive into the quick response round here. Corey, if you could give our listeners one piece of advice today, what would it be?
Speak with your tax preparer. Decide if it's in your best interest to convert your money to Roth. If you're planning to invest for a long time, or even just kind of planning to be in a higher tax bracket in the future, it's very important, in my personal opinion, to consider if it's in your best interest to pay the taxes on that money now to let it grow completely tax-free moving forward. Again, I'm not a tax professional, but that is my quickest answer to that.
Perfect. No, that's great. Thank you. And from personal experience in the past, when I spoke to certain professionals that dealt with my retirement, I talked a little bit about self-directing and wanting to invest in syndications and in real estate and be able to place capital where I want. And a lot of times I received responses that were something along the lines of, you're not allowed to do that, right? Would you say that this is the primary reason folks don't take advantage of self-directing, or would you say that there are other reasons as well?
I would say miseducation like that is a primary reason. I don't know who those individuals were you were speaking with. If they were fiduciaries of yours, it may have been in their best interest to have you keep your money with them, where again, they're getting some sort of management fee. They're keeping you on the products that they vetted out, as opposed to handing over, taking off the handcuffs and letting you be the one that makes those financial decisions for yourself. So they may see it in the light of protecting you or sheltering or guiding you. But if you're someone that is entrepreneurial driven or has your own goals and aspirations with what you want to do with your money, you shouldn't let those kind of naysayers, if you will, guide your boat. You should be able to control that and put the wind in your own sails, if you will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Corey, last one here for you. How can our listeners get to know more about you and connect with you?
Yeah, so I have a specific landing page on Advanta IRA that's got my bio very similar to what you went over. That'd just be, I believe, Advanta IRA / Corey Daharsh. I know that my phone number is 727-223-3046. If you want to get a hold of me, you can call that number and we can set up a conversation. My email address, cdaharsh, DAHARSH @advantaira.com. And pretty soon we should be having a landing page on your website as well, with some information just about how to make self-directed investments with your group. And it should lead you back to contacting me if you're interested in learning more through Advanta. We have a YouTube page I'd also like to point anyone to, where we have guests and bring on specific guests and do educational content. Again, as I referenced earlier, it's always free of charge. We're never going to charge you for our educational content. That's just Advanta IRA. I'm sorry, YouTube @Advanta IRA. Yeah, youtube.com/Advanta IRA. We put out 2 educational webinars a week on most times. And the other thing that I know I've invited you to, I've seen you pop in before, we have an investor networking forum every other Friday. I'll be co-hosting the one this Friday. It's called Pitch, Promote, Prosper. We can't endorse any specific investments or opportunities, but this one call we do every other week is kind of an elevator pitch Zoom session. You get to sign in, say who you are, what you're looking for, what you have to offer, and kind of network from there. People from all across the country join it, even people internationally that have US-based retirement accounts join the call to see what's going on, see what markets are kind of tapping, what type of investors, and it's a great thing. 12 noon to 1 p.m. Eastern time. You can find that on advantaira.com/events. It's called Pitch, Promote, Prosper. I think it's listed there as a virtual networking exchange or virtual networking marketplace.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Corey. And to our listeners, Corey just provided a lot of his personal information. So I truly do hope that you all have an opportunity to connect with Corey. From the moment I met Corey, I knew he was a very knowledgeable individual, and we definitely wanted to work with him going forward. So highly encourage folks to continue to educate themselves, connect with Corey and your professionals, of course, to continue to explore what's out there, right? Because at the end of the day, knowledge is power. It's potential power, right? And then taking execution, that's sort of the second component there. So again, Corey, thank you so much for hopping on the show. It truly was a pleasure, and we look forward to connecting with you again.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. And to your audience, I hope you walk away, like I said at the beginning of this call, with some new information, whether it's something you can utilize and tap into today, tomorrow, or 5 years down the line. I hope you at least know about self-direction now and feel more comfortable in what the possibilities are. The possibilities are endless with self-direction, and I hope you can take advantage of it sometime.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Corey.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate and Small Business for Management Consultant Show, brought to you by Quetzal Capital Group. Quetzal Capital Group works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate while also looking to add value in the communities where they operate. Quetzal Capital Group, client-centered, data-driven, result-oriented. Connect with us online at quetzalcapitalgroup.com to learn more.